Hi, I'm Jim Zogby and welcome to Viewpoint. Tonight we'll look at the situation in Gaza with Palestinian human rights advocate Raji Sourani. Then we'll get an analysis of recent developments in Yemen with former ambassador to the Yemen, Barbara Bodine. And finally, we'll look at the state of the U.S. economy and the American dream, where it is today, with political strategist Bob Borisaj. But first, an update on the Palestinians at the United Nations and their bid for statehood. I want to welcome Ambassador Maen Areikat. He's chief representative of the PLO to the U.S., served for 11 years as the head of the PLO's Negotiations Affairs Department in Ramallah, and most recently as deputy head and coordinator general of that operation. He participated in several Palestinian-Israeli negotiations. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
So despite U.S. threats of a veto, and despite Congress threatening to cut aid, I hear they're ratcheting that up again. The Abu Mazen, the president of the authority, went to the General Assembly, gave a speech, submitted his letter to the Secretary General. What happens next? What is the process that will now unfold as we go forward?
Well, the reason the Palestinians went ahead with their request at the United Nations, because they felt that they were resorting to legitimate, peaceful, diplomatic means in order to realize the objectives of the Palestinian people. And therefore, from the beginning, we said that we do not believe that such a step should be met with such opposition, neither from the U.S. administration nor from Congress. And we are waiting now for the procedural issues to be completed at the United Nations in order to present our request to a vote at the UN Security Council.
Were you surprised with the reaction, both the support and the intensity of the opposition from the U.S.? There was a lot of tension in New York this week. Last week.
We expected that because it was not a secret. The U.S. administration told the Palestinian side a few months ago that they will be opposed to
but they
such
put pressure on so many other states as well. I mean, it wasn't just a question of we oppose, we have domestic pressure, we've got to do this, but it was really pressurizing other countries to fall in line.
That was somehow strange, you know, because we expected the U.S. to oppose, but we didn't expect them to put pressure. They continue to put pressure, as a matter of fact, on members of the UN Security Council in order to preempt the Palestinian move by helping or by creating a situation where the Palestinians cannot get the quorum needed for the request to be voted on at the UN Security Council. We know that they put pressure on Colombia, they're putting pressure on the Bosnia and Herzegovina, they did put pressure on Nigeria and Gabon. Hopefully these two countries will vote in favor of the Palestinian request.
So what happens now?
Well, now, you know, we have to wait. You know, we have expected some technical delays. The President made it clear to the UN Secretary General when he met with him last Friday that the Palestinian side will understand procedural administrative procedures, but the minute we feel that this is being used as a pressure tool on the Palestinians, political pressure used by the United States and by other countries, the Palestinians are going to be very vocal about this issue. Hopefully, we expect this to be concluded in the next few days.
France offered a counter-proposal. It was to expand the base of involvement, so it's not limited to the U.S. and the quartet, which is actually driven by the U.S., that we would define parameters for negotiations, that it would set specific timetables, and that it would at the same time upgrade the Palestinian status to an observer member, a non-member but an observer state. The quartet watered that down, leaving out the parameters, sort of loosening up the timetables, and not bringing in the upgrade. Where are the Palestinians on either of those two approaches? Will you go to the General Assembly for an upgrade. Do you think the French proposal is worth considering? Is
Well,
it better than the Quartet one as far as you can see?
Well, the big question here, Jim, is why did France and the international community wait until today in order to come forward with ideas and proposals to bring the parties together to the negotiating table? The French idea to go to the UN General Assembly is appreciated, but this is a venue that is open for the Palestinians anyhow. We can go to the UN General Assembly anyone we want to do that. Right now, I don't think that we are considering going to the United Nations General Assembly before our request at the UN Security Council is reviewed and is submitted for a vote. So our focus right now is on our request to become a full member state of the United Nations.
The president's speech, and I mean President Abu Mazen. I've known him, followed his career, never heard him give a speech of this sort. It was personal, it was passionate, it told a Palestinian story. Did you think he had it in him?
Yes, because I met him in Ramallah in August, and I felt at the time that he looks at this issue as being his own baby, and he spoke with both passion and enthusiasm about pursuing it. He knew the challenges and the risks at that time, but he continued with strong resolve and determination. And the other thing, Jim, he was telling the truth. This is the difference between his speech and Netanyahu's speech. There was someone who was looking to the future and someone who wanted to linger on the past and to use the same cliches and allegations and slogans that the Israelis have used for a long period of time, but they are running out of steam. Nobody is buying them anymore.
Now, we talked about the threats and the pressure. There was obviously the threat and the pressure about the vote, but there's also this threat and pressure coming from Congress, and as I said in the beginning, being ratcheted up with members saying, we're going to cut aid, take away the presidential waiver. Congress, a Republican-led Congress, can actually do this. Have you been in touch with any members? I mean, are you aware of this process? And is there any way that you can react to it?
Well, we are following, of course, closely what is happening on the Hill. We communicate with different members of Congress continuously. I don't think it will be wise for Congress to even consider cutting off aid, because they will be undermining the interests of the United States and not only the interests of the Palestinian people. And aid cannot be used as a sword on our necks. You know, this is an issue of national pride. This is an issue that has to do with our quest for freedom and independence. And I don't think any threats of aid or cutting of aid will change our mind about pursuing it.
If you want to get in the conversation, please give us a call. If you're calling from overseas, the number is 001-202-420-5665. From here in the U.S., 1-202-420-5730. How's it playing out in the region, in particular in the West Bank itself?
Well, I think people in the West Bank in particular were very much encouraged by the fact that the Palestinian leadership pursued the matter. When they announced a few months ago that they are taking the issue to the United Nations, many said that this is only a tactical ploy. The Palestinian leadership is trying to exert pressure on the Israelis, the United States, to try to return to the negotiating table. The fact that the president and the leadership went ahead with that, I think, proved to the Palestinian people that the leadership is trying to do something to change the status quo, which is benefiting Israel greatly.
In Gaza, there were no celebrations. Hamas forbade them and has actually been sanctioning people who engaged in them. What was that all about, and does that not make the issue of unity all the more difficult?
Unfortunate what happened in Gaza. I don't think Hamas had the right to prevent the people from going to the streets to express their feelings. The national unity reconciliation efforts are continuing. I understand that there will be meetings at the beginning of next month in Cairo between Hamas and Fatah to follow up on the issues that they have discussed in the last few months. And it is the hope of the Palestinian people that these reconciliation efforts will end in success.
Before we get to calls, I want to ask you about the announcement from Israel about settlements in Gilo. I actually saw one thing that was interesting to me. The New York Times, when they reported it, or no, it was the Washington Post when they reported it, referred to Gilo as annexed West Bank land beyond the Green Line. I don't recall the Post doing that before. They would refer to use the Israeli terminology of in Greater Jerusalem. It's of course not, but it certainly was a rather expected in some ways, but still startling whenever they do this. Whenever they come from a situation where they've obviously won, they decide to sort of up the ante and play their hand in even further. Was the U.S. reaction too timid? Was it enough? Does it make a difference at this point, or does Netanyahu feel he just does what he wants to do and there's no restraint?
Very unsatisfactory, the reaction of the United States. It's not enough to say this is counterproductive. This is not. It's not enough to say that they were disappointed. They have to come out forcefully and say this violates international law. This violates Israeli obligations. This violates signed agreements. This is the kind of problems we've been having with the administration. Whenever the Palestinians do something, they come out strongly against it. They opposed our move at the United Nations. They called it unilateral, not conducive to negotiations. But when Israel actually does things on the ground to change facts on the ground illegally, the United States said that they were disappointed. Let's
go to Dubai for a call. Caller? Hello? Dubai? We're not getting the call from Dubai. So the statement was unsatisfactory. Settlement most likely will continue.
And a long-distance call from Dubai.
Oh wait, caller from Dubai. Let me hear your question. Start again. Hello. Hello. We're having trouble with the phone.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, give me your question.
My roots from Palestine, and I'm from a village called Kakun. It's been occupied since 1948, and I appreciate all the best and the great successful for Mr. Maen, and with all efforts they are doing to accomplish a great successful for announcing Palestine. But what about the 1948 lands?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, we are trying to seek the admission of the state of Palestine on the 1967 borders, and this is a decision that was taken by the Palestine National Council back in 1988 to accept the establishment of a Palestinian state in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem as its capital. But there has been confusion about the PLO and the admission of the Palestine state to the United Nations, and the Palestinian leadership reiterated repeatedly that the PLO will continue to represent the Palestinian people everywhere, those who are in Palestine and in the diaspora, until all the outstanding issues are resolved, including the right of the return, Jerusalem, settlements, boundaries, water, and security. And therefore, we will continue to seek a satisfactory, just resolution to all these outstanding issues.
Thanks for joining us, Maen and Areikat. When we come back, we're going to continue on the issue of Palestine, talking about the situation in Gaza with human rights activist Raji Sourani. And we'll take some more of your calls, so stay with us.